So today I want to talk about some Indo-European languages, the Celtic languages, and how English started. We're going to talk about the Celtic dialect, or the Welsh dialect, and maybe we'll get into Gaelic. So the Indo-European languages originated from the Caucasus Mountains and then spread from there on out. And one of the big groups was the Celtic language group, which you can see dominated Europe in the past. That's 500 BC. And in the British island, they completely took over the island. They had many different tribes. They had their own culture, their own history. And then the Anglo-Saxons came in there and started pushing them out. And so today, a lot of the Celtic languages you'll find, as you can see here, pretty pushed to the side by the Anglo-Saxons. You get the Scottish, Irish, Welsh, Cornish, Britons. And so here's some Indo-European language words for brother, so you can see how all Indo-European languages are related. And this does include Gaelic or Irish. So today I wanted to talk about the Celtic languages and modern Welsh English. So not only do I want to talk about the Welsh dialect from a sociolinguistic point of view, but I also want to talk about the history of the English language and how it started. And as we know, the British island was formerly inhabited predominantly by Celtic people. And still to this day, there is Celtic people who live on the British island and who live in many areas around there. And they still speak their Celtic languages, and that also has an influence on their English. So still to this day, many of the Celtic languages are mutually intelligible, especially Welsh and Britain. And when the Anglo-Saxons were coming in to Britain, they called them the Wilas, or the foreigners, which is what the modern word Welsh comes from. So despite them being the native inhabitants, the Aboriginal people, they were called foreigners. And many of them were pushed up into the land of Wales, and many of them left the island and moved to what we now call Brittany, which is in modern-day France. And so Welsh and Britain, they're still mutually intelligible. They can still speak to each other and understand each other. They're really not two separate languages. They're maybe just two dialects of the same Celtic language. And today the Celtic languages are flourishing. They are being used in the educational system, TV, media. They're being used in the government. You have road signs in Welsh, in Gaelic. Often a lot of the famous Welsh English sayings are direct translation of the Welsh language. They'll use a lot of Celtic words when they're speaking English. And the Welsh tend to put the adjective after the noun, and they tend to invert sentences. So they also keep some of these syntactic structures from these Celtic languages, and they use them in their modern day English. And what's very interesting about Celtic English is a lot of Celtic English, there was no such thing until recently. For instance, in Wales, everybody spoke Welsh until about the 1800s. And in the 1800s, that's when, after the 1800s, is when English started creeping its way in. And basically that was due to mass media and the modern education system, because for such a long time, the rough terrain of Wales kept the language really quite isolated. Also more infrastructure, such as modern roads and modern vehicles, and all these things helped people travel in and out, which is also partly responsible for English coming into Wales like that. So I got a compilation of videos that I think you guys will find interesting. that have examples of Welsh and other Celtic languages and have examples of people speaking Welsh English and all these different things. I think it's really important to have kind of a little bit of an understanding of the Celtic languages because they were so dominant previously in all of Europe. All of modern day France used to speak Celtic languages. They were called the Gauls before the Romans came in there and put up this Romance language on top of the Celtic language. And also, you know, the English language, the history of the English language is related to the Celtic languages because you had the Anglo-Saxons, the Frisians, the Jutes all invading this Celtic land and creating this language, English, in the Britain Island of the Celts. And so there are some Celtic words that make their way into English. And so yeah, I have some videos for you guys to watch. Also because this is a sociolinguistics little series here, I also have a video at the end that I thought was particularly humorous, pretty funny, about stereotypes of Welsh, stereotypes that Welsh have of the English, and those things. And you can still see that there's like this sort of animosity between the Welsh and the English still to this day that maybe goes all the way back to the Anglo-Saxon invasion. Because they definitely still see each other as very separate identities and very separate kind of cultures. You can definitely get that impression from watching that video that I'm going to put here at the very end. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the different clips about Celtic languages and Welsh English.
Britain had recently been abandoned by the Romans, leaving the Celtic inhabitants to look to their own defenses. Portchester was part of a defensive chain built by the Romanized Britons because of the growing frequency of Saxon attacks, so frequent that this coast came to be known as the Saxon Shore. Perhaps the most successful resistance to the Anglo-Saxons was mounted by one Artorius, the legendary King Arthur. But in the long run, the Anglo-Saxons were unstoppable. In the bloody wars that ensued, the native Britons were driven into the forests and hills of the West. There was so little cultural contact that English, which is borrowed from virtually everyone, took fewer than a dozen words from the original Britons. The final insult was that the Anglo-Saxons called the people they had conquered the Welas, meaning foreigners, from which we get Wales. The names of Celtic rivers, Avon, Thames, and places like Kent and Dover have survived. And a few words for unfamiliar landscape features like coombe for valley and crag for high rock were borrowed by the invaders. When the Anglo-Saxons invaded, the Celts fled in many directions to Ireland, France, and to Wales. The Celtic Britons were also part of the Indo-European language tree. Echoes of their language are heard in modern Welsh. The Celts who fled from Britain to France called their new homeland Brittany. Jean Leroux is a Breton-speaking onion seller from Brittany who still makes an annual visit to Wales. Breton and Welshmen speak varieties descended from the same Celtic language. Even today, these Celtic cousins still use words that are common to both languages.
Inpint, iawn.
Diolch. Inpint. Diolch yn fawr, diolch. Hwyl fo.
Hwyl nawr e. Hwyl chi blwyddyn nesaf.
Diolch yn fawr.
Another Celtic tradition is the making of coracles. Peter and Ronnie Davis prefer to discuss their ancient craft in Welsh, and when they speak English, it's with strong Welsh accents.
My family's been fishing with coracles for about 300 years. Well, you just can't pick it up at once. For somebody who doesn't know anything about it, it always turns round and goes round in circles. Well, the net we use, you see, has got rings across the top and a rope going through them. So when a fish hits the back of the net, we just close the net, pull the rope and it closes and the fish is in the bag then. Maar door de gel wel, man. Niet heel gel. Maar dem fish.
The characteristics of the English spoken by the Welsh are the rolled R, the clear vowels, the hesitant consonants, and the lilting inflections. All this makes up the music of Welsh English.
So when you finish the shot you're doing, you can carry it back and it's used because of the lightness of the craft to carry it back. But I'm not making them all the time. I enjoy making them, that's all. I make a couple every year. Just to keep the tradition going of a coracle.
Celtic Wales was united with Anglo-Saxon England in the 16th century. Today, the country is officially bilingual. For generations, the Celtic languages have been fighting for survival in France, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. That survival is threatened by English. Only 20% of the population now claim Welsh as a first language, and most of them live in the country. There's no escaping the Welsh need for English to get on in everyday life. Even this sheepdog, Vic, has been trained to answer calls in Welsh and English to increase his market value.
Good dog. Vic, get over here.
But although the extinction of Welsh has often been predicted, it survives, a lingering reminder of Britain's Celtic past. The Welsh language survives because more than 1,000 years ago it was excluded by the Anglo-Saxons, who built this defensive ditch along what became the border between England and Wales. It symbolizes the gulf between the Celtic and Anglo-Saxon cultures.
Dwi'n siŵr a braf gweld y tywydd yn aros yn braf i'r sioe yma. Reit, yn gwmni fi fan hyn yn y studio heno mae'r gantores a'r gyfansoddraig o gricieth Cara Braia. Croeso cynnes ato ni, Cara.
Diolch yn fawr.
Hyfryd i gael dy gwmni di. I ti'n wyneb ac yn lais gymharol newydd i ni yma yng Nghymru.
Ynddo.
Ond wedi bod yn canu ers o ti'n ddim o beth.
Do, dwi wedi bod yn canu ers fi fod yn 2 mlwydd oed. Nes i dechrau wneud wersi bale a jyst pethau bach, sioe bach. Nes i dweud wrth mam ar ôl weld Peter Pan, dwi eisiau bod yn Tinkerbell. Dwi eisiau canu, dwi eisiau bod mewn grŵp yn wneud grŵp dances a falle. Felly, dar ei mam jyst meddwl dim byd o'n i, ond nath i dechrau weld o'n i'n gallu canu.
Oedd na rhywbeth na, oedd na lais na'n rhywle.
Oedd, so nes i dechrau wneud yr Eisteddfoda, ac ar ôl hynna nath dynas dweud, wneud i dechrau canu efo ni, ond nes i dechrau wneud gwaith opera.
Ond yn ifanc iawn?
Ia.
Faint oedd oedran di bryd ni?
9 oed. Dim ond 9 o'n i'n canu mewn grŵp Reflections. Felly, oedd hwnna reit dda, jyst mynd rownd dda Penllyn yn canu opera. A wedyn, nes i dechrau wneud mwy o pethau pop a musical theatre, ond opera oedd
y cariad cynta, ond nawr yn gantores bop yn cyfansoddi dy hun, a mae dy gerddoriaeth di bellach yn mynd tu hwnt i Ben Llŷn a Chymru i'w glywed ar draws y byd i gyd.
Ie, wel, dwi wedi cael lot o son yn America, dwi wedi cael lot o interviews dros Skype yn America. Maen nhw'n chwarae cerddoriaeth fi yn Texas, Philadelphia. Dwi wedi dechrau wneud gwaith fo cynhyrchwyr yn bob man, really.
Ond siwt dath y cysylltiad i fod te?
Wel, SoundCloud. Mae pawb wedi dechrau gwrando i caneuon fi ar YouTube, SoundCloud, a jyst gysylltu efo fi wedyn dwi wedi bod yn gwneud gwaith efo DJs a falle, jyst bach. Mae'r bobl yn fwy enwog rwan, so...
A mae dy ti 31,000 o ddilynwyr ar trydar.
Ie, ac hefyd dwi wedi dechrau gael lot o bobl enwog yn ddynilyn ar Twitter hefyd. A
sôn am bobl enwog, ti wedi rhannu llwyfan gyda rhai o y celebs mwyaf, mae dyn ni lunia honno ti yn perfformio yng Ngwyl yn Abersoch eleni.
Ie, yn Glasbetter Beach, pethau yn ôl, eisiau yna i perfformio, ac o'n i ar y main stage.
A mae dy ti, a pwy'r gŵr bonheddig ma ti'n rhannu llwyfan gyda?
Tinty Strider.
Waw, a sio brofiad oedd hwnna?
Ie, oedd hwnna'n amazing. Oedd yn rili dda. Hefyd, mae gennau Sway a So Solid Crew ag Baby Blue a rappers really yn dilyn fi ar Twitter. Ac dwi'n dechrau wneud gwaith efo pobl enwog iawn.
Mae'r dyfodol yn edrych yn ddisgwyl ar iawn. Ac yn diwedd yr raglen, ni'n mynd i gael can gyda ti. Ond hefyd sgwrs falle am ddatblygiadau cyffroes sy'n digwydd yn America ar hyn o bryd. Lle edrych mlaen o hwnna. Am y tro, Cara, diolch i ti. Reit, i sioe arall yr ewn ni nesaf. Sioe Sir Gar, ond sdim gwartheg na defed yn agos i hon. Mae oriel Myrddin, sy'n nghanol 3 Caerfyrddin, yn cynnig gwyl dipyn fwy amgen. A dyma'r hanes i chi.
Mae'r sioe Sir Oliau yma.
This video is just going to be a video about common Welsh sayings. You know, they're in English, but, you know, just common things that we say. First of all, I just want to say I live in the south of Wales. It might be completely different in the north of Wales or anywhere else in Wales. I live more towards the Cardiff way, so it could be completely different more up the valleys or anywhere. So please I don't want loads of people saying, I don't even say that, I don't say that. That's okay, I'm just saying the common Welsh sayings, but around my area, basically. Also, I just want to say I am not taking the piss out of anybody. I just want to say that because I don't know if people might take this the wrong way. Most of the stuff on this list I say. So I am not taking the piss out of anybody. They're just common things that I say and people around me say. So I just wanted to share it. So the first word that I want to say is probably something that most of you will know what it means. Since the Valleys has been shown, just to think, I hate that programme. I'm so glad it's been cancelled. Oh, it's so cringy. Oh, makes me cringe. But anyway, since the Valley has been shown, most people would probably know these sayings. But I just wanted to do a video about it just because I like some of the words that we say. So the first word is Cwtch. Most of you will probably know what it is now that the Valleys have been shown, but some of you, like in America and stuff, might not even know what it means. It basically means hug. So somebody would go, like if somebody's like crying, go, oh, give me a Cwtch, or something like that, and it just means hug. But it can also mean like other stuff, like to a dog, say, oh, go and Cwtch down. Like, go and lie down. Like, go and Cwtch down, and stuff like that. But it basically just means hug. So give me a Cwtch is a hug.
Cwtch. This is our word for hug. Instead of saying, do you want a hug? We say, do you want a Cwtch? Or can I have a Cwtch? I'm just getting started right here.
The second saying is now in a minute. Right. I find it quite hard to explain things. I don't know what's wrong with me. So say my mum's shouting at me saying, go and clean your room, or I don't know, something. I go, I'll do it now in a minute. Some of you will probably be like, well, when are you going to do it then? Now or not now, but in a minute? It basically means I cannot be bothered to do it right now. Leave me alone. I will do it in a minute. So, but I don't know why, but we say I'll do it now in a minute. Basically means I ain't doing it yet.
Now, comma, in a minute. Say my mum, who is 49 today, bless her, happy birthday, is shouting at me to clean my room. I will say something like this. I will now in a minute. It's not a complete, am I going to do it later or am I going to do it now? Sometimes I don't even know. Basically, it means I can't be bothered to do it right now. I'll do it later. However, I don't do it later. So actually, there's no point in me saying this most of the time. It just doesn't have a meaning at all because I don't do it later. Anyway, let's carry on.
Tamping, fuming, raging. They're 3 different ones, but they all mean angry. And if you're really angry, people go, I'm tamping, fuming, raging. But some people go, oh my God, I'm so tamping about that. Oh my God, I am raging. I am fuming. So tamping, fuming, raging.
Tamping, fuming, raging. Again, from that show that does not need to be named. Nothing more needs to be said.
The third thing, which I actually didn't know was only said in Wales, but when I had a personal Facebook account, which I don't anymore, I've deleted it. But when I had a personal Facebook account, my cousin said a status and said that she said this word, and this girl was just looking at her like, what the hell are you on about? So only the Welsh say it, apparently. More people might say it, I don't know. And that word is scram or scrammed. I honestly cannot believe this is only a Welsh saying. It basically means scratched. You know when somebody scratches you and it leaves, like it actually cuts the skin and it leaves a little scratch? Well, that's a scram. And so you go, oh my God, she just scrammed me. And it leaves, you know, and you've got like we call it a scram. Or like if you, like in your sleep, like scratch your face and it's got like that's a scram. And you've scrammed your face.
But, which is spelled B-U-T-T. Instead of saying, alright mate, we say, alright but. Yeah, it's just a word for mate, basically.
The next word that Welsh people say is like. And they say it so much. I say it all the time. Am I right, like? How else do I say it? Oh, you know, like, yesterday, we'll be like, did this? Like. Oh God, it actually really annoys me, and annoys me that I say it all the time, but I say it all of the time.
Like, L-I-K-E. Standard word in English, you think? Well, we say it differently, obviously. I don't say I like at the beginning of a sentence. Oh fucking hell, I just said it. I say it at the end of a sentence, normally. We say it so much, it annoys me how much I say it. I can't believe I just said it, I really can't. I mean, when someone does something wrong, for example, I mean, we say, oh God, why did you do that, like? Or when someone's greeting you and saying, are you alright, but? We say, I'm alright, like, how are you? And you know, like, something like that, when you're about to say something you like. How many times have I said like in this video? It's annoying how much I say this, oh fucking hell, Jesus Christ. Fuck's sake, like. Oh.
How do English people view Welsh people?
They're generally known to be very friendly with sheep, that's what I've heard.
That they don't do anything weird to sheep.
They're familiar with sheep.
They're familiar with sheep?
They're very patriotic.
Well, what do you mean familiar with sheep? What does that
mean? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
The first thing comes to my mind would be sheep shagger.
Sheep, I'd say. Like they like sheep.
What are some of the stereotypes that the English people have about the Welsh?
Not the most educated. And sheep.
And sheep?
And sheep, yeah.
What about sheep?
That they have an affinity for sheep.
They have an unconditional love for sheep.
Exactly. They have an intimate relationship.
Oh, that made me laugh. They call them sheep shaggers.
Sheep shaggers?
Sheep shaggers, yeah. Because there's a lot of sheep in Wales, right?
Yeah.
And the sheep, when you get your zips, they have buttons on. Because when they hear a zip, the sheep run. So that's why they have to have buttons on their trousers now. Because they think they're going to go bang, you know what I mean?
Every time you see like a sheep and a Welsh person, you always, you see the sheep shagger, keep the sheep away from the people, but...
Do you think it's true?
I don't think so, no. I mean, not as much as any other country, but...
What are some of the stereotypes English people have about Welsh people?
Sheep and singing, actually. Very good singers.
Which one do you think they love more?
I imagine the singing.
What about sheep?
I don't know much about sheep, I'm not Welsh.
Silly people. Nice but silly. Good singers.
What do you mean silly? How are they silly?
Oh, they like to have fun. They can be a bit silly, but they're good people, they're good fun. Yeah, they're not the brightest chaps. typically. They're not the brightest.
What do you mean silly?
Well, I've got a couple of Welsh friends. They're the butt of the jokes. They're the clowns, they're the jokers. That's their thing. Not the brightest, bit silly, good singers. That's really the Welsh for you.
What are some of the stereotypes that the English people have about the Welsh?
My mother's Welsh, I'm not sure I should answer that. The main stereotype is they like sheep.
What do you mean?
Make of that what you will.
So if you had to explain it to Americans, their love for sheep, how would you explain their love for sheep to Americans?
I'd let Americans figure it out for themselves. You guys invented Google, didn't you? You can just Google it.
Google Welsh people sheep, what would pop up?
I've got no idea. You're not going to get me to explain it further than that, so you can keep trying.
What are some of the stereotypes that the English people have about the Welsh?
I think we think they're quite short, dark, and possibly a bit thick.
Any other stereotypes about the Welsh people?
We probably think of coal miners, how green is my valley, all that kind of thing.
What's up with the Welsh people and sheep?
Oh, Welsh people and sheep. There are a lot of sheep in Wales. I bet you've had some quite rude comments about that. I'm not going to go there.
How do the English people view Welsh people?
Well, my dad is Welsh, so for me personally, I like them. But I think other people make jokes about them a lot. Or like they say they're sheep shaggers.
Kind of barbarian. They view them as like country people.
What are some of the stereotypes that the English people have about the Welsh?
The Welsh, well, I am Welsh actually. They're very good rugby players. They've got short, stocky legs, which is probably why they're good at rugby. They've got a strange language, which they love. What else about the Welsh?
Well, they eat Welsh cakes.
I hear there's a lot of sheep in Wales.
That's very true, and they also have very good lamb, actually. They have a very good lamb called salt marsh lamb. There's also a lot of castles in Wales.
They're quite rural, are good at rugby and farming and shagging sheep. Actually, some of my family is Welsh, and they don't shag sheep. I don't think.
What are some of the stereotypes that the English people have about Welsh?
I know, I think it's more like things that they say rather than anything else.
So what are some things they say about the Welsh people?
Oh, I don't know, pretty crazy at some points. But all the Welsh people I know are fairly normal, so I mean they're sort of vicious rugby supporters and pretty vicious when it comes to the pubs and drinking and stuff.
So why do you think they're that way?
Oh, I don't know. It's they're upset from years of persecution by the English. They've obviously got their Celtic gene in them, so they're very closely aligned with the Scots and the Irish. So they're also silly. So they're a good nation.
No, they are nice people. They're not going to lie. They're very nice people. I've got a lot of Welsh friends, and it's like can't struggle to understand their accent sometimes, but very nice. They're quite rural, we'll say. Live only in the country, a bit kind of stick out there to themselves, but
I love the Welsh. I think we usually think they're really friendly. The accent's quite funny. No offense to Welsh people. Sheep. That's not sheep, I guess.
Compare them to like English families here. They're really welcoming, really friendly. Like always wanting to eat, always wanting to be like warm and happy. They're really, really friendly people. They love their rugby. They love their drink.
Welcome to Cardiff, the capital city of Wales. This Celtic land is known for its castles and has more castles per square mile than anywhere else in the world. It's also where the population of sheep is 4 times greater than the population of humans. And you know the saying, wherever there's lots of sheep, there's always a lot of... If London was New York, then Wales would be the rural Midwest. But instead of Bud Light and Coors Light, one of the most popular beers is Brains. I'm sure there's some cheeky banter in there somewhere. And while we're in this banterous land, let's hand this banter baton to their neighbors-in-law.
What are some of the stereotypes Welsh people have about the English?
Arrogant, can't play rugby.
That they're rude. I don't know.
Obnoxious, loud, up themselves. They think they're better than most people in the UK, including Welsh, which is fine.
As a Welshman, what are some of the stereotypes Welsh people have about the English?
Stereotypes of English? I can't really think of any offhand, to be honest with you. Me, myself, I haven't got nothing against English people, the way I see it. We're all from this little one island called Britain, so we're all the same people. It's the only thing we've got is different accents. Different accents, same as no doubt as where you're from, innit? Different accents here, there and everywhere. It's exactly the same here.
What are some of the stereotypes Welsh people have about the English? English?
Oh, I'd say that they think they're arrogant, that they have a sense of an expectation of political privilege. Also, I suppose they might think of some English as emotionally unforthcoming.
And why is that?
Because they are. By comparison with the Welsh, who are much more open.
Yeah, abrupt, cheap. English and the Welsh were two different people. We just don't like them. We really don't like them. Yeah, Welsh people are so much better.
What are some of the stereotypes that Welsh people have about the English?
But they're better, they're more stuck up. I think they're better than the Welsh. They sort of rule Britain, just because Wales is sort of still under English law in a way. The English always stereotype the Welsh as well as dumb. They don't know any better, and the fact that they love sheep or just stupid things like that, really.
What are some of the stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
There's quite a lot of prejudice amongst some English towards the Welsh. The prejudices are intimating that they're not as bright, that they maybe have backward and provincial ways and all that sort of crap. It's the usual old crap, really.
When I was in London, the English were saying that the Welsh are sheep shaggers.
Well, yeah, they say that, but then again, the English say that about where I'm from in Dorset, about people from Dorset with a lot of sheep there. We say it about Kiwis, Aussies, they've got a lot of sheep. Wherever you get a lot of sheep, people get accused of fucking them. It's banter, you hear the Welsh saying it about themselves anyway. Oh, look at that lovely sheep, that sort of thing.
What are some stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
We don't all shag sheep. A misnomer, everyone thinks we're out in fields shagging sheep, but we don't.
Who says that?
Most English people.
I know we're called sheep shaggers. Have you heard that one? Sheep shaggers, well. You can find out if you ask a few more people. Sheep shaggers we're called. By the English. No, but I can't really think of anything we call them. Like I said, I got nothing. It's like this fucking small-minded people who think like that, you know. I have no prejudice against nobody, mate.
If you had to debunk the stereotypes about the Welsh, what are stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
I can't think of any, apart from the sheep shagging one, to be honest with you. Honestly, I'm not joking about that. That's ridiculous. Like,
it's not true.
No, God, no. It's fucking stupid, man. I mean...
If you had to debunk stereotypes about the Welsh, what are some things people say about the Welsh that aren't true?
We do not have sex with sheep. We do not have sex with sheep whatsoever. Have you ever? No?
We're all a bunch of sheep shaggers as far as everyone else is concerned. Debatable, I like to say we are. Because like I said, I come from the valleys, and if anyone can speak for the Welsh, I think I can. So yeah, we're sheep shaggers. I'm proud about it. I accept it. I'm a piece of it. Because you look at the hills around where I live, there's too many of them. So when people say we're sheep shaggers, I understand it.
Well, the stereotype before I moved to Wales was that they were all a bit backward, but they're not. They're quite forward thinking.
When you say backward, what does that mean?
A bit backward in their thinking. I thought that they wouldn't be caught up with the rest of society in terms of the UK in general. But when I moved here, I was shocked by that they did have running water and fire,
television
and radio and colour TV. Yeah, it's a bit backhanded, really, isn't it?
Yeah. What are some of the stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
That we're sheep shaggers. Yeah, they say we're sheep shaggers, but we're not. No, we shag them, you eat them.
Is that true or not?
That is true.
That's true?
True, yeah, definitely.
Okay, any other stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
We're not slags. They say that we're easy, but we're not easy.
What are some stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
Sheep shaggers. No, we don't know what shag sheep. Well, they're not all dumb, even though some of them, we do get stereotyped like you sound a bit stupid, sound a bit thick. But I mean, those are probably the main two ones that we're not dumb and we don't shag sheep.
So as an Englishman, are there any more stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
Yeah, there's a lot about the Welsh that aren't true. My ex-wife was Welsh and she was perfectly fine, but then she became my ex-wife.
So they don't shag sheep?
Do not shag sheep, do not leek munch.
Leek munch?
Leek munch.
What is leek munch?
You know what leeks? Leeks are vegetables. One of the stereotypes is that they would say they're leek munching sheep shaggers, but I eat more leeks than they do. So it's okay.
Any other stereotypes the Welsh people have about the English?
Just as I said, just pompous and deluded and beneath the Welsh.
So if you had to debunk like stereotypes about the Welsh, what are some stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
I think most of them are quite true, but they're just a fun-loving nation of people who like to party. But if you cross them, you'll know about it.
What are some of the stereotypes that Welsh people have about the English? English?
I don't know what it is. They just seem to hate the English. All my mates seem to hate the English. I don't know what it is. I don't mind the English. They're okay, like, do you know what I mean? So they call us sheep shaggers. We piss on their side of the bridge. Our generation doesn't really know the history behind it. It's just sort of your parents just kind of like convince you growing up that, you know, you hate the English. Like, I don't know why, but they just do.
So what are some stereotypes about the Welsh that aren't true?
Well, I come from the valleys myself, so I'm very well aware of what the Welsh stereotypes are. Like, they say like the women ain't good from around here, but I disagree with that. All my friends disagree with that as well.
What are some of the stereotypes Welsh people have about the English?
Horrible people. Like, it depends. If you speak to English people yourself, if you have friends that are English, they're fine. But we just see each other as complete enemies.
You're just horrible people. Honestly.
So what are some of the stereotypes, like things Welsh people say about the English?
There actually isn't many, because they continuously call us sheep shaggers, don't they?
Yeah, they call us.
It's more them. They'll just sit there and call us sheep shaggers. We just call them English twat.
What are some of the stereotypes Welsh people have about the English?
They think of the English as being a bit superior in certain ways, better than the Welsh at sport and wealthier, I would say, as well. They may look down on the Welsh a little bit with regards to the economy. Other things I think they think is a bit of a backwater. Not at the centre of things, a little bit on the periphery of London in particular.
Any other things that the Welsh people say about the English?
Not really, I don't think. I don't really want to put the English down, to be honest.
As a Welshman, what are some of the stereotypes Welsh people have about the English?
The English?
Yeah.
We don't mind the English. There is one day of the year we hate the English, and that's rugby union when we play them. We hate them for 80 minutes, but after that we all have fun. We just hate them on that day. On that day we don't mind them, but when it comes to rugby, we hate the English.